Involving the Minnesota Wild. We'll start with the one that started first. They traded Jordan Greenway, no salary retained for, as far as we know, to the Buffalo Sabres, who are on a bit of a skid, but they're in it for the trade deadline. They're in it for the playoffs, and they bought a little bit for the trade deadline, which is nice. Jordan Greenway going from Minnesota to Buffalo. We actually mentioned him in one of our past videos as like a useful depth player. What are the Sabres getting, and why this guy?
Yes, what I said in the previous video, if you didn't watch it, is Greenway is a guy who's consistently gotten in the late 20s, early 30s for points in a season as a depth guy. Now, this season, he's only had 2 goals and 5 assists for 7 points. So the question I always ask is, did he forget how to play hockey? And the answer is almost always no. Mm-hmm. So I kind of think Greenway would be a good... what's the word I'm looking for? Like a project for the Buffalo Sabres. Justin Fisher over here pointing out that Don Granato, the head coach of the Buffalo Sabres, was Greenway's coach on the under 18 team, which is really big. They get bigger. He's a huge forward in a division.
And Buffalo's big.
Loading up, and they like to be. And also, this is a reward for the team in terms of this year's playoff race, and it's something that helps the team in the years that follow. So there's no salary retained. It's a 2nd and a 5th. So they really believe in this player. Minnesota acquiring some more picks, but he signed for $3 million next year and the year after as well. So I was looking at the Eastern playoff picture, and it depends how you look at the standings.
Okay.
So the Islanders are in the final playoff spot in the East. They have 70 points. The Sabres are 4 points behind them at 66. That's not very good, right? I don't like that math, except the Islanders have played 64 games. The Sabres have only played 60. And in terms of point percentage, the Sabres actually hold the 2nd wild card spot in the East. That's not how it's counted.
Yes. Am I wrong in saying the Sabres are, I think, something close to 5-5 in their last few games?
You're exactly. They are 5-5 in their last 2 games. The Islanders are 4-3-3. So that gives the Islanders, I believe, more points over their last 10, even though they have fewer wins. Thanks, Gary. And Ottawa is a huge wild card here because they're tied with Buffalo, but they've played more games, but they're 7-2-1 in their last 10. I don't think you have to worry about Detroit anymore. Washington's selling. It sounds like Florida's selling, but none of that has actually happened yet. So Buffalo needs to win some games here, right? And Jordan Greenway helps them do that. They're going to be harder to play against, bigger, meatier, and I wouldn't be surprised to see his scoring touch go up. He didn't forget how to play hockey.
Okay. All right. Now, Minnesota makes another trade. Oscar Sundqvist in, Jordan Greenway out. Now, Jordan Greenway, I think, is making $3.5 million. Oscar Sundqvist making $3 million. Oscar Sundqvist making about the same, $2.8 million. It seems like the Wild just wanted to get Oscar Sundqvist.
Well, and for good reason. You know, it's funny. I was saying he's one of those types of players who just everyone seems to want. You know, he's always in every conversation, but he's never like a star. He's rarely a top 6 guy. But recently, with a club that has had a lot of drama around them recently, the St. Louis Blues, Craig Berube was lamenting the Blues. I think it was their 3rd line of, I want to say it was Barbashev, Sundqvist, and I can't remember the 3rd piece, but they're all gone. And he talked about how big of a part of the Blues 2019 Stanley Cup win that was. So the Wild are doing some savvy work here. They're acquiring more picks than they're giving up, but they're also still buying. So Bill Guerin, I'm very interested to see what the sum of the parts is at the end of the trade deadline. I want to see if he gets more draft picks than he gave up, because I think the answer is probably going to be yes. But weirdly, at the end of it, I think we're going to look at the Wild and go, they're also better.
Right.
He's not having a bad deadline.
No, he's not. And they are right in it. I mean, the West is wide open. This is actually the perfect time for them to have the cap penalties that they have, because they could still be in it.
Big time. Well, you know, I talked about how they could fall out of the playoff picture or win the division last week. And they've actually moved up since I said that. They're 2nd in the Central. They're only 3 points back of the Minnesota Wild, but there's Colorado there, just like a freight train. The Wild are 7-1-2. In their last 10, they've won 3 straight.
Yeah.
You got it. You got to give them something.
Division.
Yeah, and like looking at this trade, I can't help but also think about Stevie Yzerman planting his flag in the sand and being like, I know what we are selling this year. We do not have enough to challenge for those bottom 2 spots in the East. Like he knows, like, I need to stick to the plan and get the assets for these guys, and that's what he's doing.
And our conversation upstairs changed completely with this trade. So I talked about how it's a 32-team league, and there are 3 teams in the NHL who we don't know what they are. Like, everyone is either a buyer or a seller. Then there's the Buffalo Sabres, who are sort of in no man's land. No, they're not. We know they're a buyer. There's the Florida Panthers, who are in no man's land. No, they're not. They're a seller, or at least they're trying to be. They haven't done it yet.
They've waited a little too long to be a seller, too.
Well, we'll see. We have another hour left. And then out west, and this will be a topic for another video, thoroughly, completely boned the Calgary Flames.
Okay.
Yeah.